Welcome. My name is Jana Miller, and today we are going to be discussing class and what the observations look like when an observer comes into your classroom to conduct the class observation. We will start out by going through the agenda and the objectives for today. When we get through with those, we will move into a short developmental overview, and then we will start in on the tool. I will break the tool down for each age group, so you will have a breakdown for each dimension under infant, toddler, and preschool. So we're going to talk about the classroom assessment scoring system, and I'll refer to it as the class tool. And we're going to look at what matters. We're going to look at how the tool is organized, break it down by the dimensions for each tool, and then put it all together. And at the end, I will let you know how the observation process goes, so you'll know how long the observer will be with you and everything that will take place. When we're done, you're going to understand what the class tool measures. You're also going to understand the link between the effective teacher-child interactions and children's learning gains. So you're going to see how the connections and the relationships you build in your classrooms help children gain the learning that you're trying to achieve with them. You're going to see that even making a real small change in things you do can net real big outcomes in learning gains for children. So as we step into the developmental overview, we're going to start with our infants. And we know that our infants are defined as birth to 18 months. They are completely dependent on that toddler, on that infant teacher and caregiver who's with them all day. They are rapidly changing. And you may be, if you're in an infant room, you may come in one morning and you've got a baby who's starting to try to pull up, to stand up on things. They go home and come back the next day and they're pulling up because they've been working on it. Their development is changing very rapidly, but they're still completely dependent on you for all of their needs. And some babies may let you know their needs immediately, while others may not. So as a teacher in the infant room, it's important to understand the needs of the infants and their cues when they have a need. And now we're going to move into defining our toddlers. That's that 15 to 36 months. There's some overlap with that infant. Depending on the development of the toddler, we know that they're rapidly developing and changing. We also know that toddlers are moving from the dependent to independent stage, which is why you hear them do the no, I do it, me do it, because they're trying to spread their wings and become independent. I'm going to encourage toddler teachers to foster that independent, help toddlers grow their independence in your classroom, give them responsibilities and let them do the things that they can do. Toddlers are also becoming social at this time. So you might have a toddler that comes to you and says, where's Miss So-and-so at today? Or where's Johnny today? Because they're realizing that their friends or other teachers are not there. And then we move into our preschoolers. Those are our 3 to 5-year-olds. They're refining those skills that they learned in those toddlerhoods. They're also developing those active imaginations and the critical thinking skills. But again, this is all based on those connections and interactions they make with you as the teacher. The questions that you ask and the engagements you have with them help them to develop that active imagination and help them to develop the critical thinking skills that they need. When I think about active imaginations, I think about my grandson who is now 5, but when he was 3, we were playing in the pool, and out of the blue, he decided that we had alligators that we had to get out of our pool. And that's just a quick example of his imagination. He was like, oh, Nana, we got to remove the alligator. We got to get him out. So he was working on removing the alligators, but because his imagination is being fostered throughout the day in school and at home, he uses it, which makes him think about things in a different level. We know that young children learn by doing. They learn by having hands-on experiences and engaging with you. And positive relationship with teachers encourage children to learn about the world around them. So it is important that starting in those infant rooms all the way through our preschool rooms that we develop good relationships with the children that we care for in order to help encourage them to learn about the world and to take those risks and to be motivated to learn. And as we look at this quote, importance of relationships, it kind of sets the stage for what we're talking about. Young children experience in the world in the context of relationships. In turn, these relationships influence all areas of development. They lay the foundations for later developmental outcomes, including self-confidence, mental health, motivation to learn, achievement in school, and conflict resolution. And as we think about motivations to learn, achievement in school, and conflict resolution, we can think about people that we know that maybe were very motivated to learn and really went that extra mile in school. Or maybe the opposite. We know somebody who didn't care if they were in school or not. Or maybe you know somebody who struggles with resolving issues by using language. Maybe they resolve them by using physical things. We want children to learn how to use their words to resolve any kind of conflict that they may encounter. So now we're going to dive into the class tool and looking at what matters. We're going to start with our infant group. Before we go there, we're going to start with the elements of a classroom. We know that there are elements to the classroom. We have the structure, that's the what, the who, the where. That's you, the teacher, the curriculum, the standards, the materials, the training and education you bring as the teacher. But then we have the process, the how, the implementation, that relationship, academic and social interactions. Now you can see from the slide that both contribute to children's academic and social development. But I want you to ask yourself which one you think might be a little more important. Both play a critical role in the classroom, but there is one that is a little bit more important. So I want you to think about that. And as we move forward, I'm going to let you know that that's the process. It's the how. How do you connect with the children in your classroom to implement the activities that you have going? How do you build those relationships so that children want to be in school and they want to learn and they want to gain? And they don't stop. They want to keep working with that activity until they completed it. So the process is the important. Structure is important. The process pops out at us a little bit more because it's the how. How do we connect with the children in our classroom so that they want to learn? How do we build those relationships so that they want to be in school and they don't want to stop doing that activity until it's completely finished? The class assessment observational tool is an assessment scoring system. I'll just refer to it as class from here on out. It's a research-based tool that is used to help teachers and schools improve the effectiveness of classroom interactions. The class tool provides a common language and shared lens for teachers, coaches, observers, researchers, administrators. You will hear many of us come into the classroom using a lot of the similar language because we're all diverse in the class tool. We use it in a lot of areas, but we use it to help teachers improve on their interactions in the classrooms. So you'll hear many of us from ELC talking and using the same language. I've changed this slide up a little bit. The class tool and effective teacher-child interactions. In the beginning, it used to say had low to moderate interactions. Now, as we've been doing class observations, I'm seeing those interactions improve and increase from low to moderate to high levels of interactions. I see effective interactions lead to better cognitive, behavioral, and social outcomes. When you are engaged and connected with the children in your classroom and involved in their learning and their activities, you diminish inappropriate behaviors, you improve their cognitive development, and you help them engage and build social outcomes. The class tool evaluates the effectiveness of teacher-child interactions. It looks at how you engage with the children. This tool does not look at the activities you have planned or how your classroom is set up. It is solely looking at how you and the children engage in the classroom and how the children engage with their peers. And something I want you to really make note of is that small differences in teacher-child interactions net real differences in child outcomes. A small difference could be as simple as how you greet a child when he comes to school. Maybe on typical mornings, you're over here doing paperwork, getting ready for your day. And Johnny comes in and it takes him a while to get into the room and get connected. But maybe today you greeted him at the door with a big smile and said, "Johnny, I'm so happy you're here today." Maybe he still had a little bit of a rough time when he came in, but he transitioned quicker into the activities that you've set for him. Where before it might have taken him 20 minutes, maybe we got him to do it in 15 today. So making that small difference of greeting him at the door every day can move him to be able to engage quicker. So just a little difference. Or maybe in center time, you let children choose where they want to go instead of you placing them into a center. Sometimes that little bit of a difference can make a huge difference in their outcomes. To look at our tool, you'll see that it is broken down for many age levels. We will focus on the infant, toddler, and pre-K, but this tool has been designed to go through kindergarten through third grade, middle school, and high school. The nice things about the tool is you're going to see and hear commonalities across all age levels. For effective interactions, you'll see similarities and you're going to hear that common language. But the best thing is that each tool is developmentally appropriate for the age that it is used to look at. So if it's an infant classroom, that infant tool is developmentally appropriate to look at the engagements and interactions that the teachers and the babies have in that classroom. As we go through, you'll see how it changes to meet the developmental needs of the children for the age group that we're going to be talking about and looking at. Now, organization of the infant class tool. Like I said in the beginning, we're going to dive now into the class tool itself. We're going to start with the infant tool. We're going to break it down so you see how it plays out in all the dimensions and what each dimension looks at. So what that observer is listening for or looking for when she's in your classroom. The infant tool has one broad domain, which is called responsive caregiving. That responsive caregiving domain is broken down into 4 dimensions. And the 4 dimensions are broken down into relational climate, teacher sensitivity, facilitated exploration, and early language support. As we go through, we'll look at each one of these dimensions individually, so you'll understand what relational climate looks for and looks like. So relational climate, it's about relational behaviors. It's about emotion expressions. It's about respect for infant state and lack of adult negativity. So we're going to start with relational behaviors. And in relational behaviors, it's about you making eye contact and looking at the babies. Do you get on their levels with them? If you got them sitting up on the floor, are you down there where you can be at their level and be talking to them and engaging with their activities and what they're doing? Do you use their names when you're talking to them? Do you use a calm, quiet voice when you're calling on the children or you're talking to the babies? Emotion expressions means you're smiling. You're happy to be in that room. Your body language and your facial expressions say, I love being with the babies. Now we know you're not going to smile all day long, but you should be smiling and having fun in your infant rooms. And you should be laughing with babies. Babies are fun. Babies can make you laugh if you're engaged with them and talking to them. But something I want you to remember when you're in an infant room. When you're smiling at babies, don't just smile with your mouth. Make sure that your whole face smiles at them. Make sure that they see that smile in your eyes. Because when babies are looking at you, they track up to your eyes for that smile. When they see that loving, warm smile in your eyes, watch them. They'll smile back at you. And it's such a rewarding feeling. Respect for infant state. Tell the baby what you're going to do before you do it. Johnny, your nose is running and I'm going to use this tissue to wipe your nose. Johnny, it's time for your diaper to be changed. I'm going to pick you up out of your seat and I'm going to take you to the changing table. Let them know what you're doing. When you get over there, tell them, I'm going to take your diaper off and I'm going to use this cold, wet diaper wipe to wipe your hiney. When I say that, think about how you would feel if somebody walked up and wiped your arm or your face with something cold and wet and you weren't expecting it. And I'm sure some of you are smiling to yourself as you listen. But think about how that baby might feel. Let them know. I'm sure every one of you have changed a baby and wiped their hiney with a cold, wet diaper wipe and they've kind of jumped or they've started crying immediately. Or you go to wipe their nose with that tissue and they turn their head or they run away if they're mobile. Tell them what you're going to do. Tell them, I got to wipe your nose and I'm going to be gentle. Think about how you would feel if somebody walked up to you and just swiped your nose with a tissue and didn't tell you anything. So as you work in these infant rooms and you think about the babies, think about them needing to know what's going on. Explain to them what you're doing before you do it. A lack of adult negativity just means that you are not mad. You are not rough with the babies. You're not tense. You're not using a harsh tone with them. And your face is soft. So your body language and your expression and your tones are calm and quiet and soft. Teacher sensitivity, it's about awareness and cue detection. It's about being responsive to the babies, and it's about the babies being comfortable. Again, awareness and cue detection. Babies are going to let you know in different ways that they need your attention. Maybe little Sally just rubs her eyes when she gets tired. Maybe she's that quiet baby. But you look at Sally and you go, oh, Sally, I can see you're getting tired. You're rubbing your eyes. Would you like me to rock you? Or would you like your blanket? Or you have that mobile or that verbal baby that lets you know every time he needs you. He starts whining or fussing or just making noises to get your attention. And you respond. Now, responding to an infant can be physically or verbally. We know if you're changing a baby at the changing table, you can't leave them to go take care of another baby. But what you can do is say, Johnny, I hear you. I know you're awake. I'll be right there. Let me finish changing Sally and I will come help you. Now, after a while, if you pay attention, you'll see and hear that Johnny kind of calms down a little bit. But then you quit talking to Johnny and he starts to cry a little bit more. And you start talking and he stops. He hears you. You are being responsive to Johnny's needs. Johnny's feeling comfortable with you because he stops crying when he hears your voice, when you start talking to him. Now, he still wants you to come pick him up, but he's calmed and soothed by you telling him I'm coming. Because when you're done changing Sally, you've gone over and gotten Johnny before, and you'll do it again today. And as soon as you pick Johnny up, he's all happy and smiley. Maybe you're sitting on the floor and one starts to cry and you immediately pick them up and they stop. You start rubbing their back and they settle right on down into your arms. You know they're comfortable. If they're mobile, they're crawling to you if you're sitting on the floor and they're climbing into your lap. They're pulling on you. You know those babies are comfortable. Again, it's about being aware of their cue and knowing their cues and being responsive in a very timely manner. Babies need to know that you're coming. They need to know that their needs are being taken care of. Facilitative exploration, it's about involvement, infant focused, and expansion of infants' experiences. Involvement means that you are involved with the babies as they're playing and exploring their environment. You're talking to them about the things that they're exploring. Maybe Johnny's looking in the mirror and he's making faces and you say, Johnny, I see you. Look at you smiling in that mirror. Are you having fun watching your face make funny things? Talking to them about what they're doing. Focused on what they're focused. If Johnny's playing with the little blocks, don't bring out a bunch of other things. Focus on the blocks with him. Maybe you're holding Johnny and he's watching one of his little friends with the trucks. And you say to Johnny, oh, I see. You see Stevie over there? He's got a truck. Would you like to go play with a truck? Again, you're infant focused. You're following his lead based on what he's looking and what he seems to be in tune to. Expansion of infants' experiences is expanding the experience with a toy. Maybe you got one that's old enough and he's pushing the lever on the popper and the little balls are popping up. And you say to him, Johnny, when you push that lever down, those greens and reds and yellow balls pop up. You see them? There's 4 balls in there. You've now expanded on his experience with that popper. He's now hearing language about the popper and what's happening with it when he pushes the button or he pushes the lever down. You're connecting his actions to what's happening with the balls. You're expanding on his experience with it. It's not doing big activities. It's you being involved and engaged with those babies and talking with them based on what you see their interest is. Engage support, I'm going to say engage language, early language support. I'm going to say talk. That is key in an infant room. Language is important. Babies need to be talked to all day long. We need teacher talk. We need communication support, and we need communication extension. Teacher talk is about you describing your actions and what you're doing as you're doing them. You see, I'm putting my gloves on so I can change your diaper as I'm putting my gloves on. Or I'm taking my gloves off because we finished changing your diaper as I'm doing it. Describing what their friends are doing. You may be holding one and he's watching Johnny in the mirror. And you say to Stevie, you see Johnny? He's making funny faces in that mirror. Look at him over there smiling. Did you see that face? Now he's growling. Did you hear him? He's growling. He's going, ah, and copy that sound. Communication support is about copying the baby's language. They're cooing and babbling. Copy it. Make those same cooing and babbling noises so they can hear them. Support them in that. But then give them words. Maybe you have one that started that mama, mama, or that, and you hear them going mama, mama. So you repeat it going, I hear you going mama, mama. Are you missing your mommy today? That's who you're calling. When you go mama, mama, you're calling your mommy. Extend on what they're saying. Give them words for it. It makes a big difference. I have 6 grandchildren. 4 out of 6 were talked to from day one. When they were 2 and started childcare, they could talk in full sentences and tell their teachers what they needed. Their teachers continued talking with them and their language just kept growing. Early language support is important. My other 2 are adopted and they didn't get that early language support. They were later getting their words and now they need speech to help. Talk with your babies. Talk all day long in those infant rooms. It is important. Even if you're the only teacher in there with those 4 babies, talk to them. Copy their sounds and extend on them. And I stress early language support because it is so important for children to hear the words so that they can use them. Okay, that ends the infant section. Now we're going to move into the toddler tool. And again, I'm going to break it down just like I did the infant tool. You'll notice that the toddler tool is broken down into 2 big domains. And now we branched out from 4 dimensions to 8 dimensions. Those dimensions are broken down within each of the big domains. For emotional and behavior support domain, we have positive climate, negative climate, teacher sensitivity, regard for child perspective, behavior guidance. Under engaged support for learning, we have facilitation of learning and development, quality of feedback, and language modeling. Again, talking with young children is very important. Now we're going to dive into our dimensions for toddler. We're going to start with the emotional and behavior support and work through those 5 dimensions. We will start with the positive climate dimension. Positive climate, it's about relationships. It's about positive affect. It's about respect. Relationships is using children's names, getting on the toddler's level and talking to them instead of standing up and looking down at them and talking to them and having them look up at you. Go down on your knees, sit in a low chair, whatever is comfortable, but get down on their level and talk with them. Tell them you're happy to see them. Use their names. Tell them you like their new shoes today. Positive affect is about smiling and laughing. Toddler rooms can be so much fun. You should be laughing and smiling with your toddlers. Your toddlers should be laughing and smiling with each other. When you're laughing and smiling, they should be laughing and smiling back. Respect. It's about you modeling and teaching respect. Toddlers don't come to you knowing it. We have to help them, which is why we say please and thank you. Excuse me, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and use that kind of language. We have to treat them with respect for them to learn how to respect others. It's not something that just automatically comes. They have to learn it through us and by us modeling it and showing it. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on negative climate. It's about negative affect, punitive control, teacher negativity, and child negativity. This is one we see very little of, thankfully. Most toddler teachers are learning to change their don'ts and stops and no's into positive statements. Instead of don't climb on my table, change it around to saying we keep our feet on the floor and we use our table for eating at, or our feet need to stay on the floor so we stay safe. Punitive control is threatening them. You don't get to do this if you keep doing that. Just go to timeout. And I always have a teacher that says, we can't use timeout. Not if you just send little Johnny over there and you don't talk to him. Toddlers don't understand timeout. If a toddler needs to regain control of themselves, if you're going to use timeout, then you need to walk them over, sit down with them, get on their level, and explain to them that they're over here in this chair to calm down because of what they were doing. When they have calmed down, they can join us. But don't expect a toddler to be there for more than a minute or two. And most of them are only 2. They're not supposed to sit there more than 2 minutes. And they're not going to. By the time they get to that timeout chair, they've forgotten what they've done. You help them by helping them by guiding their behavior. Teacher negativity is just that. You are always using a harsh voice. Your tones are harsh. You're hollering. Or every time somebody looks at you, you look like you're mad and don't want to be there. Again, this is not an area that we have a lot of problems in. Most teachers enjoy what they're doing and are there because of that. Child negativity would be if children were constantly fighting and bickering and not getting along and no redirection was happening. So again, for negative climate, change your no's, don'ts, and stops to positive statements. I'm trying to keep us all safe. We need to keep our feet on the floor. When we go outside, you can climb on the whatever is appropriate for them to climb on. Teacher sensitivity. We heard this in our infant one. Again, it's about awareness, responsiveness, and child comfort. For awareness, are you aware of the cues of the toddlers in your classroom? And again, you may have some toddlers who are very verbal and let you know in one sense or another. Or you got little Johnny who's constantly pulling at your pant leg because he needs your attention. But what about those toddlers that don't seem to be as verbal, or maybe don't always let you know? Maybe they get that look. Are you aware of what that look means? Do you know when she's needing her pacifier? Do you know when she may be thirsty? Do you let them know that you're coming? Again, responsiveness can be physical or verbal. You may be changing one and have to tell one that you're coming. Or you see one start to cry. As soon as he starts to cry, you go over and check on him. You've been responsive. Toddlers let you know if they're comfortable real easy because they are all over you as a teacher. If you're on the floor, they want to be in your lap. They want to be next to you. They're climbing on your back. They're hollering for you to come look at what they did. You can tell children are comfortable in the toddler room by the way they're reacting and responding to the teacher. I'll go do my thing, but I look back because I know my teacher's over there and I know I'm safe. I'm comfortable because she's in the room with me. So being aware and being responsive to their needs. Quickly responding, even if it's verbal because you can't get to them, is responsiveness. Toddlers need to know that you're there for them. Regard for child perspective. This is a little newer one for this age group, but it's all about child focus and being flexible and that support for toddlers' independence. Child focus is just about being focused on what the children are focused on. Maybe one of them's brought you a car to talk about it. Sit down and talk about that car with them. Or maybe they've been wanting to dig in the sand, so you pull out some sand at the water or sand table and let them play in the sand today. Flexibility means, I'm gonna let y'all do that today instead of what I had planned. Maybe you were wanting them to draw a specific item based on the story you read, but Johnny wanted to draw a fire truck. And you tell Johnny, it's okay, you can draw that fire truck. You're still getting them to draw. Or maybe the flexibility is that you decide, gonna read the book that Johnny's brought me 3 times versus the story I have planned. You still get your story time in, but you told Johnny that you care about what he's thinking and you're flexible enough to change your story out. Support for independence. Help those toddlers learn to do what they can do. Help them, giving them little tasks to do. If they can wash their hands on their own, let them. If they can go potty on their own, let them. We know you need to supervise, but give them the opportunities to do this. You don't want the toddlers to grow up to be 10, still hollering for their mommy to bring them towels when they're in the shower. You want them to be able to do that on their own. And that's what they're working for. When you have a regard for the toddler's perspective, you help them learn to think about others and start learning to take their perspectives into consideration. Not telling you to throw your day away, Give toddlers the opportunity to move around your room and be flexible in doing things that they can do. I hope that toddlers can get toys off your shelves in your classrooms. That's supporting their independence of them being able to get them off and put them back. Flexibility just means changing things up a little bit and going with the flow with the children. Maybe you want to do this and they want to do that, so you follow their lead and you go over there and you do that with them. You're still getting the learning in there. They're still getting the engagement because you were flexible and you're with them. You're child focused. You're having a regards for them. Behavior guidance. And I want you to focus on the fact that for toddlers, it's guidance, not management. For toddlers don't come to you knowing the difference between right and wrong, which is why they hit. They don't realize the hitting hurts or that it's wrong. So when we think about behavior guidance, it's about being proactive. It's about supporting that positive behavior, and it's about minimizing the problem behavior. To be proactive in a toddler room, you're probably needing to remind them every day of your rules, in the sense that our hands are to help our friends. We walk in our classroom and we work together in our centers. Don't need big, long rules for toddlers or for preschoolers. Toddlers need to know what they need to do and how they need to do it. Maybe each day you say, before we go into our centers, you say, now remember, we walk to our centers and we use our hands to help our friends. And we play together and we work together in our centers, which means we share our toys. Just remind them throughout the day. Toddlers forget. They're little. Their brains are still growing. You've got to remind them that's being proactive. Supporting that positive behavior is letting them know, oh, wow, it's cleanup time. And I love the way Johnny's putting all the trucks back on the shelf. Johnny, you're doing a great job cleaning up. Now, Johnny knows that that is good and I can do it again. But Stevie heard you telling Johnny he was doing a great job cleaning up. So now he's going to put some stuff on the shelf. And he's going to say, look at me. I did it too. Supporting. When you support positive behavior, you encourage the rest to follow and you diminish the problem behavior. When you are proactive and remind them of your guidance and how we get along in our classroom, and you support that positive behavior, problem behavior diminishes. I've been in many toddler rooms where the teacher reminds them and those toddlers play absolutely fabulous together in their centers. They work together, they get along. They're typical toddlers. So every now and then, Johnny has the truck I want and I try to take it. But my teacher's real quick to remind us, oh, we got to share our toy. Look, we have another one. And we're able to go back to playing. She's involved. Teacher's involved. She's engaged in interacting with the children. So she's aware of the behaviors because she is involved. She's proactive because she's reminding them and she's supporting those positive behaviors, which is diminishing the problem behaviors. So again, I remind you that for your toddler rooms, it's about guidance. Maybe some of those toddlers have an older brother and they play rough with them. I really don't realize that hitting my friend hurts. But you as the teacher remind me that Sally doesn't like it when you hit her. It hurts. We need to use our hands for helping. And you'll watch little Johnny's behavior change and get better. And I can tell you, most toddler rooms, teachers are very proactive. And they support that positive behavior because their problem behaviors are really not there. Even in those 2-year-old rooms. Children get along and work cooperatively together and play together because the teacher's engaged and involved. And she's been proactive in helping remind them of her guidance for behavior in the classroom, which is why they work and they get along. Okay. Moving into our last 3 indicator dimensions for toddlers. Been through a lot. Facilitation of learning and development. It's an active facilitation, expansion of cognition, and children's active engagement. Active facilitation, again, means you as the teacher are actively involved in what they're doing. You're actively involved in their centers. You may be moving from one center to the other to join the children as they're playing, but you're actively involved and you're asking questions. You're helping them think about the things they're doing by your conversation with them. You're giving them information about the items that they're playing with. Expansion of cognition is that giving them information, encouraging them, helping them think about it on a different level. When you are actively involved, you can expand their cognition and children stay active in the engagement of the activity. It can be a simple activity, but Sally don't want to leave until she's 100% done, because not only does she get to do the coloring, you're talking to her about the colors she's using and whether or not we have those same colors in our room. You're facilitating her learning about colors as she's drawing because you're actively involved talking with her. And toddlers come home and can tell mommy and daddy a whole lot of what they've learned. And let me just tell you, when they go home and they tell mommy and daddy about these things they've learned, you become the bomb. You are the best teacher because their toddler knows things that their friends' toddlers don't know. Be involved, help them learn about their environments and the things they're engaged with. It could be describing the colors. It could be talking to them about what that dump truck actually does. Maybe they've seen the dump trucks, but maybe they didn't realize the bed of it opened up and the back end opened. When it raised up, the back end opened and all the dirt come out. You've expanded their cognition and their information about a dump truck when you give them that stuff. Not all toddlers know their colors, so maybe you talk about the colors that are on that dump truck. Now you've expanded information on colors for them. You've been actively involved in what they were looking at. They're standing at that window talking about that dump truck they seen out there. So you actively facilitate them learning about the dump truck. Guess what? Johnny's going to stay at that window and talk about that dump truck. He's going to ask you more questions because he's going to want you to give him more information if he's really engaged. And in most cases, if you're talking with him, he's going to stay there being actively engaged with it. When teachers are not involved or engaged, children walk away from activities. They don't complete them. They don't want to complete them. They don't want to do them. But when a teacher is actively engaged with them and talking with them and describing things to them and encouraging them to participate, they want to be there. They want to complete that activity. They want to join you every time you have an activity, no matter what they're doing. Quality of feedback. This one can be a little bit hard sometimes in a toddler room because not all your toddlers are verbal. So when you're giving feedback to a toddler, you may be giving feedback on their actions or their words. Scaffolding is about assisting toddlers, whether you're verbally or you're physically assisting them. You could be giving them information. You could be helping to guide their hand. You could be demonstrating for them. Maybe you're wanting them to wrinkle up some paper. So you take a big piece of paper and you not wrinkle it all up and you ball it all up and you show them. And maybe they try, but maybe you have to help guide their hands by putting your hands over them and help them wrinkle that piece of paper up. Providing them information on the things that they're working on and doing. Maybe little Johnny's over there stacking blocks and you're talking to him about why that tower keeps falling over. So maybe you tell him, well, what if we put this big block on the bottom and we used our big blocks down here and put our smaller blocks up here, and you help him. And you explain to him that when we put the big blocks on the bottom, it made a foundation for the smaller blocks to stand on. Providing information could be describing the colors on the puzzle to him. Maybe he's asked you a question and you're going back and forth with him and talking about it. Encouragement and affirmation. Please, please, please take it past good job. Children need to know what they've done that is good. If you're going to encourage a child to try a task that is hard, you have to let them know that it's difficult, but you know they can do it. They're strong. They're smart. They know how. They just got to try. And when you see a child keep working and not give up, maybe you're trying to work on fine motor and they're threading some of those big rings onto a string. And little Johnny's struggling to get that string pulled through. You've showed him how to do it. You've told him how to do it. And he keeps trying it. And then he does it. And you say to him, Johnny, look, you did it. You kept trying. I'm so proud that you didn't give up. I know it was difficult, but you did it. Let's try another one. Encourage him to do it again, but affirming that he accomplished it. Encouragement and affirmation is critical. You want young children to leave you knowing that they can. You don't want them to go to preschool going, I can't. I don't know how. You want them going to preschool going, I can do it. And if I don't, I'll go to my teacher and she'll help me. You want them to be able to try. You want them to take that risk because they build a good relationship with you and they know they're safe. That even if they get it wrong, you're going to be there for them. I'm telling you all this because there is well, now he's high school level, but he was a second grader when I did my student teaching. And the only thing that child said was, I can't, it's too hard, or I'm bad. But he didn't perceive that he could do anything. Everything was so hard for him. He broke my heart then, and he still breaks my heart whenever I do this training, because I think about him and the lack of encouragement and affirmation. So hear my story, and please, please, please take it past good job. Help children to understand what they did. Wow, that was awesome. You helped your friend clean up so nicely. You encouraged him to continue to help, and you affirmed that it was a great job of helping. You identified your letters or your colors. I know colors are hard sometimes, but you kept trying and you matched them all in the right way. Great job. You didn't give up. You kept working at it. Encourage them, please. Affirm them. Help them to know that they can do it. Language modeling. Talk to your toddlers. If you're a toddler teacher, you probably have toddlers from one end of the spectrum to the other when it comes to language. You may have some nonverbal, you may have some kind of verbal, and you may have some that are so verbal, man, you don't have to worry about what they're talking about. You know every word they're saying. It's all there. So toddlers, again, need you to talk to them all day long. Support language use. Repeat and extend. Self and parallel talk and advanced language. Supporting language use is giving them words to use. Johnny, tell your friend you don't like it when he took your toy. Say to him, Stevie, I don't like it when you take my toys. Give him the words to use. Support the use of language. Help them use language. Repeat what they're saying and extend. You may have some toddlers who are still babbling. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. So you repeat dad, and you say, I hear you calling your daddy. Are you missing him today? Repeating and extending, giving them more language, letting them hear the words correctly, not correcting them, you just restating it so that they hear it. Self and parallel talk is describing your actions as you're doing it for self-talk. I'm washing my hands. I'm putting soap in my hands as I'm doing it, so they can relate the words to the action and they see it and hear it together. Parallel talk is describing in the actions of the children around them. You may have one that's new to your room. Maybe he's a little shyer than others, and he kind of stands close to you. You see him looking around the room, and he's looking over at the boys at the water table. Tell them what they're doing. You see Stevie and Johnny at the water table. They're filling up buckets with cups. And they also have this in there. Would you like to go play with that? Describe what's happening so they can make that choice. Describe the things you're doing together as you're doing them. Advanced language, not talking, doesn't have to be great big huge words, new words. Give them new words to use. Give them words that they haven't heard before. But when you give them new words, make sure they understand the meaning. Can be as simple as stream versus river. Even your toddlers probably can talk to you about a river, but very few may be able to talk to you about a stream. So please make sure when you talk to them about the stream, because it was in the story you were reading maybe, describe what a stream is, connect it to a river so that they can make a connection and they can understand it. Because then I'm going to tell you, you're going to have that one toddler who's really going to get it. He's going to go home and tell mommy and daddy about that stream he learned about today. And when they ask him who he learned about a stream from, he's going to give them his teacher's name. Then mommy and daddy are going to get on the phone and be going, guess what my 2-year-old did today? He come home and told me about the word stream, and he knows what it is. his teacher at such and such place told him about it. She's the bomb. Guess what? Now they're calling going, hey, do you have any room for any more 2-year-olds? Because they want their children to experience the same thing. Talk to those toddlers, give them good language, use correct sentences when you're talking to them, use new words, and help them connect those new words to some familiar words. But again, it's about talking all day long in your toddler rooms. Give them the language. All right. We've got a little more. We're going to go through the pre-K tool. And then when we're done, I'm going to talk to you about the process of the observations and how those go. All right. I'll break down the preschool tool. And you'll notice from this side, preschool breaks down into 3 big domains. And then from those domains, it breaks down into 10 smaller dimensions. So for our big domains, we have emotional support, classroom organization, and instructional support. Under emotional support, we have positive climate, negative climate, teacher sensitivity, regards for student perspective. Then we have, those are our first 4 dimensions. Then under classroom organization, we have behavior guidance, behavior management for preschoolers, not guidance. And then we have productivity and instructional learning formats. Then for our last domain, which is instructional support, we have concept development, quality of feedback, and language modeling. Again, I'm going to tell you, language modeling is important. It's been in every tool. Language is crucial to young children's development. They need to hear words. They need to be able to learn to use words. We're going to start with the emotional support domain. We're going to start with positive climate. And when we have relationships, positive affect, positive communication, and respect. For relationships, it's about getting on the children's level and talking to them. It's about making eye contact. It's about using their names, letting them know you're happy they're there. Positive affect is smiling and laughter. There should be smiling and laughter happening in preschool classrooms. You should be having fun with them. They can come up with all kinds of neat things to do. Children should be laughing and smiling with each other throughout their activities in their day. Positive communication, letting them know, I'm happy you're here today. Maybe Johnny's been out sick and he's back today. And you let him know, Johnny, I'm so glad you're feeling better and you're back. Or maybe you tell Sally, I like them new shoes you have on. Those are pretty purple shoes. Maybe you rubbed a child's back because he came over to you. Or that child gave you a hug and you hugged him back. Respect. Again, preschoolers use please and thank you sometimes. They have to be reminded too. But if we're going to teach, if we want them to respect us, we need to treat them with respect. Children are young people and they need to be respected. We need to use please and thank you and excuse me with them. We need to use yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. We need to model it so they learn to do it. We want them to learn how to respect others. We need to treat them with respect. I'm not going to say much about negative climate. Again, you see it's negative affect, punitive control, sarcasm and disrespect, and severe negativity. Again, change your negative statements to positive. Take your don'ts and your stops and make them positive statements. Negative affect means you look like you don't want to be there. You're mad. You got this frown on your face like you don't even want to be there. Punitive control can be you're not going outside if you do that again. Or just sending them straight to timeout with no talking. Or maybe it's, do I need to send you to the office? Do we need to call your mom or your dad today? That's all punitive control. It's all threatening of that child. Sarcasm and disrespect. Now, we've been trying to teach preschoolers respect. The last thing we want to do is be sarcastic with them and be disrespectful with them. Severe negativity would be you being sarcastic and disrespectful, having lots of negative affect, or your children just not getting along at all in those classrooms. Again, negative climate is not one we have any issues with. I don't hear preschool teachers using sarcasm. I don't see any severe negativity. And in most classrooms, you can tell teachers want to be there and they're happy. Now I'm going to move into teacher sensitivity. Again, it's about being aware of the children in your classroom, being responsive to those needs, addressing problems and helping them to resolve the problems so that they can engage back into what they're doing, and student comfort. Preschoolers, you may be more where you have some of those preschoolers that are a little more shy or a little quieter, don't always let you know when they're having trouble, but they get a look. You know when Sally's struggling with an activity because she just kind of puts her arms in her lap and just kind of puts her head down. That's her sign she needs help. Are you aware of that sign? And if you are, do you respond to that sign quickly? Do you say to Sally, I see you struggling. Do you want some help? Or do you say, Sally, I'll be right there. So she knows you're aware that she's struggling. Are you responsive to them? When Johnny comes up and says, hey, Miss So-and-so, do you say to him, just a minute, Johnny, let me finish with Sally. Finish your talking to Sally and then go back to Johnny. You've been responsive to Johnny. You're finishing up with Sally. Now you can talk to Johnny. You acknowledge that Johnny needed your help and you were responsive to him. When it comes to addressing problems, are you able to help children resolve a problem? Maybe his blocks won't stick together and you help him and now he can continue building. Maybe Johnny and Stevie have been struggling over a thing and you've talked with them and sat down with them and helped them work through their issue to where they're back engaging. You address the problem so that children can re-engage in what they were doing. Maybe maybe that's a day where maybe problems didn't arise and there wasn't a bunch. But you were aware, you were monitoring your room, you were watching your children. You were responding to them when they did call your name. And it was obvious that those children are comfortable with you because even in your preschool room, you sit on the floor, you're going to have some who I want to sit by you. Can I sit in your lap? Or they're calling your name from wherever they are. Miss Jana, come look at my picture. Come see my tower. Oh, look, I put my baby to bed. They want you to be involved. They're comfortable. They have a problem and they bring it to you so you can help them address it and resolve it. That's what a teacher who is sensitive to the needs of the children in their classroom is. She's aware of the children. She responds to their needs. She addresses their problems and helps them to resolve them so they can engage in what they were doing. And the students are comfortable with her. Regard for student perspective. It's about flexibility and student focus, support for autonomy and leadership, student expression, and restriction of movement. Flexibility and student focus is about following the student's lead, being flexible and changing up the story you're reading today. You're not getting rid of story time, but you're reading it, a different story. Maybe you are that teacher who always told them what center they had to go, and you decided you're going to let them choose today. You're being flexible and giving them the opportunity to choose. You have children that we want to learn to make good choices. These are our future leaders that you have in your classrooms. We want you to help them learn how to develop their own autonomy, how to develop into a good leader. And the way to do that is through your support. You give them jobs in your classroom. You give them the opportunities to lead a lesson. Maybe Sally gets to choose how we're going to transition from large group to our centers. And she leads the group to their centers. Maybe you let little Susie do the attendance today. And the children get to decide if I raise my hand or I jump up or I just say I'm here. But she's leading an activity. She's being a leader. You're supporting her development of her own independence and skills to be a good leader. Student expression is about allowing students to express themselves verbally and in art. Allow students to talk about the things they want to talk about. Maybe you want to talk about the weather that we've been having. And maybe little Johnny watched a movie about meteorites last night. So when you start talking about the lightning and the thunder and the rain, and he goes, no, I seen a meteorite come through my window. And you say, but you didn't see anything else out your window? No, Just that meteorite come crashing through my window. So ask him. So what happened with that meteorite? Follow up on his expression. Let him talk about it. It's where he's at. Let him express the things. Maybe it's you're on the carpet and you're talking about and something about feelings, and little Sally says, my mommy was sad. Give her a minute to express it. Or maybe she's telling you, I'm sad. Why are you sad? Or she's telling you she had lots of fun when she got to go do this. Let her talk about that for a minute. Restriction of movement means that they have the ability to move. Not saying to have chaos in your room. If it's a structured time for a large group and we need to be sitting down and paying attention, they shouldn't be moving around. But if it's a time of the day when we're in our centers, do they get to move freely within their centers? Can they move from blocks to dramatic play? Can they leave the block center and clean up and go to another center? Do they have that ability to do those things? Can they move around their room? Can they choose where they sit from time to time? So restriction of movement means they have the ability to move. They're not restricted to being stuck in this hole or in this center for an hour and a half. They have that ability to move. They can go from center to bathroom. They can clean up over here in the block area and go to the art table. Do they have the opportunity to move throughout their classroom? Now we're going to move into classroom organization, which was our second big domain. And I feel like I'm going very fast. We're going to talk about behavior management. Now, when we think about behavior management, remember in our toddler tool, it was called behavior guidance. For preschoolers, you're managing that behavior. It's about having clear behavior expectations, being proactive, redirection of misbehavior, and student behavior. When we think about clear behavior expectations, think about the first of the year, when I would always sit down with my preschoolers and I'd say, okay, we've got a new year. We've got to figure out how to keep our classroom safe and for everybody to be able to work together. And as a group, we would come up with just a few classroom rules, which were our behavior expectations. Every day, our hands were for helping our friends. Every day, we walked in our classroom. Every day, we used inside voices when we were inside. When we went outside, we could get louder. For the first few months, we went over our behavior expectations every morning so that they really understood what my expectations were. And they didn't change. Just because today was a really excellent day didn't mean we get to holler and scream and run in our classroom. It just meant today was a really great, excellent day. But we still keep an inside voice, we still walk, and we still use our hands for helping. Or maybe we have listening ears when the teacher's talking. Being proactive can be very simple as reminding somebody going, walking feet. Or maybe little Sally's tilted her chair back on two legs. And you've walked by and just gently tapped her on the shoulder. Chair went back down for redirection. Sorry, got my proactive and my redirection mixed up. Proactive is back to reminding them we have walking feet. Or maybe you say something about what are our hands for? And 3 children say they're to help our friends. Or maybe somebody says, what kind of voice do we have inside? And they say, inside voice. We talk quietly inside. We can holler outside. So just little reminders. Coming in off that playground, everybody's excited and we're still running. And maybe outside you remind them, walking feet. Johnny's just put the brakes on now. He's walking in. Redirection of a misbehavior could be as simple as tapping little Sally on the shoulder because her chair is on 2 legs and we need it on all 4s. It could be just you being involved can redirect them. What do we do when we have, how do we tell our friends we don't like that? Reminding them. I will tell you that in most preschool classrooms, I don't see a lot of redirection because I don't see a lot of inappropriate behaviors, which says to me that teachers have set clear behavior expectations. They have been consistent with their expectations and they followed through. Student behavior, little to no, I see no aggression in classrooms and no out and out defiance. And I can tell you, I've been in lots and lots of preschool rooms. And in most preschool classrooms, teachers do very good in behavior management because they've set clear behavior expectations. Children follow those rules and do them, even when they're not reminded. But that teacher has been so clear and it's been consistent that children know from the first day of school to the last day of school how we behave. And they help each other. Productivity, maximum learning time, routines, transition, and preparation. Maximum learning time means you as the teacher get the maximum out of your time with them. Children are busy and engaged, regardless of what the activity is. You're not having to deal with behaviors, inappropriate behaviors or other things during the middle of activities. You're not hunting for your stuff. Everything's there. You're ready to go. Children know their routines and know what to expect. Your transitions are quick and brief. Being prepared for lessons. And every time I do this one, I think of a colleague of mine who was in a classroom doing an observation. Teacher was not prepared. Children were sitting on a carpet, and this observer timed the teacher. And the teacher spent over 8 minutes looking for a book in the closet. What do you think happened on that carpet? Children were behaving inappropriately because they were waiting and wondering what to do. Children were leaving the carpet because there was nothing for them to do. So as the teacher, you need to be ready for them and prepared for each activity and lesson. If you are releasing children from large group, it's time to go into centers. You got an art table open with activities. Before you let children go to that art table, make sure they know what to do with the materials that are on it so they can get started. This is an area where I see where a lot of times we set up the art table, we send children there and they have to wait on us to come sit down with them and tell them what to do. And pom-poms go flying, or glitter gets spilled on the table, or we start coloring on ourselves, even preschoolers. Be prepared and let them know what to do. So when they get up from large group and they go to that table, they can get started. When I leave large group, I can go to my blocks and start playing. I'm not waiting on you to come put them out for me. They're out, ready for me to go. Everything is ready. You get the maximum learning time out of each activity when you are prepared and things are ready for them. When you think of productivity, think about a well-oiled machine. Think about a time when you're in your classroom and you're doing a small group activity. The rest of the children are working in their centers. Your director comes in and she's got a question. You're able to answer her question, give her what she needs, and all your children stay busy. There's no disruptions. Children are still engaged in their activities. They know what to do. It's prepared. They're getting the maximum learning out of that activity because they stay engaged with it and they're busy. This is another easy area for teachers to do good in if we have the room set up so that children can be busy and engaged in things throughout all opportunities of the day. It can be as simple as going to your table for lunch, having their food out and being ready. Or when they get there, do they have to wait on 10 other kids to come to the table to get ready for breakfast? Having that on the table when they sit down, letting them know the breakfast is there, you may engage and start eating. Lets them go ahead and get busy. They're not waiting for you to get things going. They're not wandering around the room with nothing to do because they're busy and engaged because you've set it up to be successful for them and for you. You have materials out and ready to go. Children know what to do with them and they're able to engage in them. And this is our last dimension for the classroom organization. So instructional learning formats. It's about effective facilitation. It's about a variety of modalities and materials. It's about student interest and clarity of learning objectives. Effective facilitations means you're involved. You're joining them in their centers and while they're working and playing, and you're engaging them in conversation and you're asking questions and you're facilitating things that they're doing and learning through that questioning and activity. A variety of modalities and materials means that they have a variety of things to engage with. They have opportunities for hands-on learning. They have opportunities maybe to be the materials. Maybe we're going to do a comparison today, and we're going to compare taller versus shorter. And we use our children. They're actively involved in that. They're going to stay interested in that activity because they're part of it. Even if they're the ones sitting on the carpet, they're going to be engaged in that and involved because there's a part of them that can be there and do things. Students' interest, just that. They stay engaged and interested. You're reading a story and they're listening. They're ready to answer that question. You've got an activity going and they're busy doing it. They want to join you because of your involvement and your engagement. Children are interested in what's happening and they stay engaged in it. Clarity of learning objectives, let them know when we go to the blocks. I put a book over there about the buildings we've been looking at, we've been reading about in case you want to try to build them. Now remember, only 4 children can be in the block area. When we go to the art table, I've put out markers and crayons and glue and paper and pom-poms and sticks. So maybe you want to use this to draw or paint a picture of one of the buildings that we found. I also put some pictures in there for you to look at. Now remember, only 3 people can go to the art table. Clarity of my learning objectives is we're still learning about our buildings and we're going to be painting pictures on our buildings. And I can use these materials to get started when I get over there. And only 3 can be there. Maybe you have to reinstate them throughout the day because maybe Sally comes and she wants to go to the art table, but it's full. So you remind her, well, Sally, let's see how many are at the art table. She tells you there are 3. How many can be there? 3. So what does that mean? Hopefully Sally realizes that means she's got to play somewhere else until it opens. Some classrooms have like a sign-in sheet where they say a wait list. Here, write your name on our wait list, and when somebody comes out, then you can go in there. She restated the learning objectives and summarized them again for her. Now we're moving into the last 3 dimensions under instructional support. Concept development is our first one under there. This is a tough one, I think, for teachers. This is one where teachers tend to struggle in their scores. It's about analyzing and reasoning. It's about creating. It's about integration, and it's about connection to the real world. For analyzing and reasoning, the observer is listening for those how and why questions. Well, why do you think that happened? Or how can we fix that? They're also listening for that prediction language. Do you ask children to predict what they think will happen next or what they might be going to do? And then they're evaluating that. Did it work like that? Or you said it was this. Is that what was on the next page? Creating doesn't have to be a tangible item. It could be brainstorming with you on a list of things you need. Maybe you're going to change your dramatic play from home living to a doctor's office. So you've said as a large group and you've asked the children, hey, we want to change our dramatic play from housekeeping to a doctor's office. What do you think we need? And they're coming up with all kinds of things that they remember seeing at a doctor's office. They're brainstorming. They're making a list. They're creating that list of items they may need. It could be that's a producing of that list. Or they're planning. We talked yesterday about changing our dramatic play into a doctor's office. What do we need to do first to make that change? Now they got to plan out how they're going to change dramatic play into a doctor's office from a home living center. Integration is about connecting new knowledge to previous knowledge. Reminding them we're still working on colors. Remember the book we read, My Coat of Many Colors. And remember all the different colors we've seen in it. Who can name some of the colors we've seen in that? Connecting the new knowledge to previous knowledge. We've been working on numbers. We've been counting. Now let's see if we can count out the bears up to 5 because that's the number we're on. Remember how we were reading our story about the number 5 and then we drew some pictures of the number 5? Today we're going to sort by 5. I'm connecting 5, new knowledge of sorting 5 objects to what we already know about the number 5. I know what it looks like. I can count it on my fingers. but I've never separated items. Now help me understand that by connecting what I do know about the number five to the new activity. Connecting that new knowledge to old knowledge to previous knowledge. There was a classroom where a teacher pulls out one of the scales and a child says, hey, we used that before when we were seeing which one was heavy and which one was light. The teacher says, you are correct. We're going to do something similar to that. I have a piece of wood and I have a piece of foam, and we're going to see which one of those is heavier or lighter. Which one do you think is heavy? Now I'm connecting to what they already knew when I brought that scale out. I built on what they knew because maybe somebody didn't know. Connections to the real world, connecting it to things in children's lives, whether it be to things that are happening in the classroom or things at home. And there's a couple different things. There's one, a teacher does an experiment with the eggs. She connects it to the story Humpty Dumpty because that's what they've read. But then she connects it to the real world because she asks children when she cracks open the one egg, have you ever had an egg like this at home? Have you ever done this with an egg? So she's connecting that to the real world. Or there's another one where the teacher is talking to the children about grilling and asking what kind of things they can grill. And a child says chicken. And the teacher says, chicken, okay, what kind of chicken? Bone-in chicken or chicken with the bone out like we had at school yesterday when Miss So-and-so brought in our lunch? We had chicken nuggets yesterday. That was chicken without the bone in them. Or do you like the chicken leg with the bone in it? She connected the types of chicken to the children's real world. It connected for them. They were like, oh yeah, I know that was chicken nuggets. No, I like it with the bone in it. I like to eat the chicken leg. Connecting it to their life and to the real world for them. Again, concept development is that analyzing and reasoning, predictions, how and why questions. This is an area that tends to be low for all preschool teachers. So want us to find a way to help beef it up. You do this. You just got to take it to that next level where we're doing it more. Quality of feedback. Scaffolding, feedback loop, prompting thought processes, providing information, encouragement, and affirmation. Like in our toddler tool, scaffolding is about assistance, whether it be verbal or physical. It could be giving them hints on things. There's a video where a teacher is playing the hot and cold game with the child. And as the child gets closer to the letter that she's looking for, the teacher is telling her hot. Oh, you're getting warm, getting warmer. Oh, you just got hot. Oh, you're on fire. It's right. And the child puts your finger on it. Or the teacher says, oh, you're freezing. You're ice. You're so cold. Letting her know that she's far away from it. So it can be either physically or verbally, providing hints or assistance. Feedback loop is that. Based on what the child is saying, you're going back and forth with him and having a conversation. Back to my meteorite story. The child is talking about meteorites and that teacher's going back and forth. Every time he makes a statement, she comes back with a question about the meteorite. And they have a big conversation about the meteorites through a feedback loop. And during that feedback loop, she prompted his thought processes towards the end when she says, so did the firemen use the fire hoses to put out the fire, or did they use a fire extinguisher? And the little boy kind of looks at her and he gets this inquisitive look on his face and he's like, fire hose. She said, so they used a fire hose to put out the fire. Have you ever seen a fire extinguisher? And the little boy sits for a minute and he shakes his head no. And she says, you know what? We have one in our hallway. Would you like to see it? So she prompted his thought process. She's providing him information with a visual, but in that she also can provide him information about what a fire extinguisher does. It puts out a fire just like the fire hoses, only it's smaller and it uses a chemical that makes a foam, and the fire hoses use water. So then you provided information about a fire extinguisher and how it's used and what it's used for. Plus, you provided the information as far as why it's different than a fire hose. Encouragement and affirmation. And I won't give you my story again, but just remember my second grader who thought he couldn't do anything. Please, please encourage and affirm these preschoolers. Let them know they can do it. They're smart. Just keep trying. And when they accomplish it, make sure you tell them they did an awesome job. You're so proud of them. Keep up the great work. Give them that encouragement. Give them that affirmation. So when they get to kindergarten, they know they can do it. Feedback loops are important. Gives you that opportunity to learn about that child and help them to learn new things. Okay, our last dimension for preschoolers, language modeling. Again, talk to your preschoolers all day long. It's about frequent conversations, open-ended questions, repetition and extension, self and parallel talk, and advanced language. Frequent conversations means that you and those children are talking throughout the day, not just about business talk. You're not just having conversations where you're directing children on what to do or how to do it, but you're actually talking to them while you're sitting at the art table, asking them about their evening. So, what'd you guys have for dinner last night? Really? I had chicken. Oh, I haven't had lasagna in a long time. Have that conversation with that 4 or 5 year old or that 3-year-old. Talk to them about things, whatever they want to talk about. Think about it as having a conversation with your friend. She talks, you respond. You respond based on what your friend is saying. So when you're talking to the children based on that, but frequent conversations is not just about you and the children having conversations. It's about the children having conversations in their peers. It's about them being in centers and talking with each other. It's about them at a table having lunch and having an opportunity to talk to each other. Open-ended questions is an area that most teachers, I think, struggle with. And I think that's because society has set us up to want a yes or no answer. When we think about the world we live in, everybody wants a yes or no answer. A true open-ended question does not have a yes or no answer. A true open-ended question does not already have the answer figured out. It could be 10 different answers that are correct based on 10 different people who answered it. But that's a true open-ended question. You don't already have the answer for it, and it takes typically more than one word to answer it. At the end of this, I do have a website I've done a slide with some open-ended questions and a website that you can access that has bukus of open-ended questions for every aspect of a day. So when we move on to repetition and extension, it's about repeating and extending on what those children are saying, using clear sentences with a variety of words in there. Should be having adverbs and nouns and verbs and adjectives all throughout your sentences when you're talking. Repeat what they're saying and extend on it. You may have some preschoolers whose language is not that great. They were later getting that language as an infant. They didn't get it until they were in toddlers. Then we started talking to them more. So their language may not be good. Repeat it correctly. Don't correct them. Don't say, that's not how you say it. Just repeat the word the way it's supposed to be said. And then extend on it. Provide them with more words and more information. Give them words to use. I was in a 3-year-old classroom, heard this teacher tell a child multiple times, use your words, use your words, use your words. This child looked at her, looked at his friend, looked back at her, looked back at his friend, but never really used words. I asked that same teacher later, have you ever given him the words you want him to use with his friend? She asked me what I meant. I explained to her that every time she told him to use his words, he just looked at her, almost like he didn't know what words to use. So I asked her, had she ever said to him, use your words, tell your friend you don't like it when he takes your toy. She said, no, I really hadn't done it that way. I said, try it and let's see what happens. When she asked the child the next time later on if he used his words and gave him his words to use, he followed through and used his words. He didn't know what words to use to begin with. So I caution you as a preschool teacher, just because they're 3s, 4s, and maybe close to 5 doesn't mean they have all the words they need. Please keep that in mind and give them those words. Don't just tell them to use their words. You tell them the words you want them to use. Self-talk, again, is about describing your own actions. It's about describing what you're doing as you're doing it. Parallel talk, again, is about describing the actions of those around them and what they see. Maybe, again, you've got that new child who's not sure about joining a group of play of people in the dramatic play area, but you describe to them what they're doing and help give her the words to go over and ask if she can join their play, and she's able to join the play. Advanced language, again, don't have to be huge words. Can be that little word stream, but you've expanded on it. I was in a classroom the other day. The teacher used the word, she was reading a story, and in the story was the word gaze. She took the time to explain what a gaze was, what it meant, about a long look. She even modeled what a gaze was and used it. But she did it, she told the children a gaze is kind of like you look at something for a very long time, you're staring at that object for a while. It's kind of like when you just get fixed on it and you just look at it. It's a long gaze, and that's what they were talking about in the story. There were multiple words in that story that children hadn't heard. So whenever she used a new word that she knew they didn't know, she provided them with information about that word to connect it to things that they already knew. That's advanced language. Not big words, but new words. It could be big words like nocturnal, but then explaining what nocturnal means. And let me tell you, your preschoolers love to learn about nocturnal animals and then tell adults what they are all about. So when you're thinking about language modeling in your preschool rooms, remember it's about frequent conversations, using open-ended questions, repeating and extending, and using that advanced talk. We should be hearing your children talking to each other when they're playing and they're working on things. All right. Language modeling is the end of the dimensions for preschool. Now we're going to move into the last little bit of this training, and I'm going to talk to you about the process in which the observation happens. Before we go there, here is my slide on open-ended questions. I just put a few of them on this slide that I pulled off that website. I have the website on the slide. I encourage you to go to that website and look at all the different open-ended questions. When I was in a classroom, I took some of these and I put them around the top of my room so that no matter where I was in my classroom, if I was working with children and I needed to come up with an open-ended question, I could glance upward, find me a starter, and then follow through with an open-ended question for the children. It's what helped me in the classroom. It might help you. This website would be a good resource. I again encourage you to use it. The class system is all about learning, measuring, and improve. Effective teacher-child interactions are related to the things you learn. We come out and measure through your observations. We provide resources and trainings, and you improve, so your numbers go up. It's a cycle that we do over and over to keep getting better at the things we do on a daily basis. And you'll notice as we've gone through this tool, didn't talk about anything that you don't do every day. Every aspect of the class tool is something you are already doing in your classrooms on a regular basis. The goal of this tool is for you to take it, do it, be more intentional with your actions, have it happen more often, have it go longer, and then being intentional with it. That's the goal. When you do that through the trainings you get and you increase your engagement in your interactions and you increase the relationships you build in those classrooms, you improve. And then you improve the outcomes for the children that you're working with because you've improved on the relationship. And we know that that's how children learn. When the observers come to your center to do your observation, there are 4 cycles. So that means they're going to be in your classroom about 2 hours. The cycles each include the observation time and the scoring time. For an infant room, the observer is going to be in your room for about 15 minutes. And most observers will step out. Every now and then you will have an observer who will just turn their back to you and score out that observation. They'll wait. Most of them are waiting about 10 minutes. Then they're turning around and they're turning around and then coming back to you to observe for that next round. Many of your observers will step out at the end of that 15-minute cycle and then step back in. This will happen a total of 4 times. They'll come into your room, they'll do a 15-minute cycle, step out and score, come back into your room. The 4th cycle, when they are done with that 15 minutes, most of them are going to say, bye, I'm done, I'm not coming back. If I'm your observer, I'm going to say, bye, you can breathe, I'm done. I usually get a teacher to giggle or smirk or laugh. I know they've decompressed and they're okay and they'll breathe now that I'm done with the observation. If you're a toddler or pre-K, same typical rules apply. The only difference is your rooms are observed for 20-minute cycles. So a teacher is in there for 20 minutes, takes her notes, steps out for approximately 10 minutes, scores out that cycle, puts it away and steps back in. Again, they are in there for a total of 4 times. On the end of that 4th one, they will tell you bye, they're not coming back. Teachstone has many resources. Some of you may have access to the Teachstone already. If not, we can get you some of these resources to help you, like dimension guides. There's some class dictionaries and stuff that are out there that we can get that might help with your understanding of the class tools. And you can always reach out to us at the Coalition. We are here to help you and support you through your class adventure. You have questions, please reach out. I'll be happy to answer. Have your director send them to me, send them through the red line, but know that I am a resource and will be here to help you, as everybody else at ELC is. That concludes our training for today. Again, thank you for joining me for Class 101. I hope this helps you feel better about your observation. And please hear me when I say, you do this every day. We're just trying to make it more intentional, make it happen more often and throughout the whole day. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.